Okay, so now let's talk about inversions. Now, with music theory, it just has these words that to me have always sounded scary, and that's why I kind of would avoid them, like arpeggios or inversions or the Phrygian mode or the Lydian mode. There's all these weird, kind of scary names. At least that's how I've always felt about it. So inversions was another one that I kind of stayed away from for a while for whatever reason, but it's actually quite simple, and that's what we're going to be talking about in the next part of this course. Just inversions, what they are, and I'm going to be showing you how to play them on different string sets, triads using inversions, so that you know really how to play all kinds of different chords on any string set, right? It's extremely valuable to know this, okay? So all an inversion means, so normally if you're playing a major chord in root position, then your 1 is going to be the lowest note, your 3 is going to follow, or your 5, it doesn't matter. And those are the two that are also going to be in the mix. So you're going to have the 1, the 3, and the 5 in the mix, but your 1, if it's a root note position, is always going to be the lowest note, okay? So that would be a chord that is not inverted. It's just a root note position chord, okay? So the first inversion happens after, if you were to take the 3rd and put it as the lowest note. So now the lowest note in the chord, or kind of the note that the ear is hearing first, is the 3rd and not the 1. So you still have the 1 in there, and the 5, the 1, the 3, and the 5, right? But now your 3rd is the lowest note that's being heard, okay? So that would be called the first inversion, okay? Since it's no longer a root position chord, okay? So you can just remember it's really quite logical. Your first inversion is when the 3rd is the lowest note. Your second inversion is when the 5th is the lowest note. And your third inversion, and that's when you're playing chords that have 4 notes in them, is when the 7th is the lowest note. Okay, so those are your kind of 4 main types of chords and how you would call them officially in music theory, okay? So root note position just means that the 1, so in our case we've been playing a lot of E, the 1 would be the lowest note. And then after that, whether it's the 3rd or the 5th, doesn't matter. It's just about that lowest note, okay? And that's also what you're going to see with slash chords. So if you see like a D with a slash and then an F sharp following it, all that they're trying to tell you is that that F sharp needs to be the lowest note. Now in the case of D major, F sharp is the 3rd. So all that slash chord is telling you is, okay, we're playing a D using the first inversion, meaning that the 3rd is the lowest note in the chord, okay? That's all slash chords are. That's why they have that slash there, so that you know which one of the inversions to play, okay? So until now in this course, we've been learning these triad islands, right? And the island as itself, if we were to just play the standalone island, we were always playing 5, 1, 3. That was the order that our island went, right? Now, in our case, the 5 was always the lowest note. So that means that the whole time I was teaching you what we would call second inversion triads, okay? But in the last lesson, I also showed you how you could kind of extend that and add notes to that island and add in the root note so that it's the lowest note, right? So that would then just be a root position chord, right? If we were to only play the triad without that root note, and the 5, the way I've been teaching you, the 5 has always been the lowest note, then you would have your second inversion, okay? So what I want to teach you now on the fretboard in upcoming lessons is we're going to be taking the different string sets. So the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, right? The 4th, 5th, and 6th. And I'm going to be showing you how to play those inversions, right? I've been teaching you just one triad island type. and that's the second inversion triad island type because it's so common and easy to modify, okay? But now I just want to show you how you could play a root note triad or a first inversion triad, right? And then that's just going to broaden your, just your possibilities on the fretboard. Because now you're going to know, okay, I know my main kind of 3 triad islands, but there's different ones that I could be using as well, okay? And that's what I want to teach you now. And I want you to practice that just as we practice these triad islands. And then again, you don't need to always use the root note. You don't even always need the root note when you're playing chords. And that's why it's so valuable to know these different inversions all over the fretboard. An easier way of saying it would just be different combinations, right? We say inversion just so it's really clear what's the lowest note. But you're really just playing different combinations of the same chord. Okay, that's all you're doing. You're just taking those 3 notes and just switching around the order, right? It does give you a different characteristic and a different kind of sound, especially if you accent the third, you accent that one more. It'll give you a different flavor kind of still, even though it's the same notes, but you are playing the same notes, okay? So I hope that this explanation of inversions made sense for you. Let me just recap one time. If the 1 is your lowest note, then that's not an inversion. That's just a root note position chord of whatever chord you're trying to play. If the 3rd is the lowest note, so if it's a 3-1-5 or a 3-5-1, then that's the first inversion, right? If the 5th is the lowest note, it could be 5-1-3, 5-3-1, then that's the second inversion, okay? And then if you're playing 7th chords and you take the 7th and that's your lowest note, then you're playing the 3rd inversion, okay? Okay, see you in the next lesson. Hope that made sense. See you there.